Today's read aloud is called Growing Trees. This is a picture of my tree and me. We've been growing up together for a whole year. It all began last summer. I went to visit a national forest with my mom and dad. A forest is a great place to learn about trees. There are trees as far as you can see. We took a hike with a forester, an expert on taking care of trees in the wild. The forester showed us small young trees and old big trees that were like towering giants. Then he explained the life cycle of a tree. It all starts with our seed. In the spring, the warm sun makes the seed germinate or begin to grow. The seed sprouts a small root that grows down into the ground. The root absorbs water and minerals from the soil. Next, a small stem pushes up out of the ground and grows into 2 tiny seed leaves. The leaves use sunlight to give the tree energy to grow. A new growth called a shoot appears at the tip of the stem. Larger leaves grow from the shoot. The seedling is on its way to become a tree. The young tree keeps growing if it gets enough water and sunlight to survive. In its next year of life, the tree grows buds that may turn into leaves. Soon the tree has branches, a woody trunk, bark, and lots of leaves. Each year the tree grows taller and its trunk gets wider. A forester can tell how old a tree is by counting its rings. A tree trunk has 1 ring for each year it has been alive. This tree has more than 100 years old. A forester can also find out how old a living tree is by using a tree borer, a tool that takes out a small part of the tree without hurting it. After our trip to the forest, I wanted to grow a tiny tree of my own. Dad took me to a nursery where you can buy flowers, shrubs, and trees. A nursery has trees that have grown big enough to transplant or plant in a new place. The nursery worker showed me trees that have flowers in the spring and fruit in the summer. We looked at trees with soft leaves and trees with pine needles. I chose a maple tree. My tree was already more than 4 feet tall, just a little taller than me. The nursery worker helped us choose a shovel to plant the tree. She recommended organic fertilizer to feed the tree as it grew. Then she went over the instructions on how to plant my tree. I picked out a place in our backyard where the tree would have lots of sunlight and lots of room to grow. Then Dad and I dug a hole with the shovel. The hole was as deep as the tree's root ball and about 3 times as wide. We carefully lowered the tree into the hole. We loosened the burlap bag around the roots. Next, we filled in the soil around the tree. I added organic fertilizer to the soil and sprinkled mulch on top. Then, I gave my tree a nice drink of water. Dad asked an arborist to check the other trees in our yard. An arborist is like a doctor for trees. She pruned the branches of our big trees with pruning shears. She checked all the trees for signs of disease. She also listened for bugs by using a stethoscope. She looked like a doctor. One of our oldest trees had been damaged in a storm. The arborist used a handsaw and a chainsaw to cut 2 broken limbs. I asked the arborist to check my tree. She said it was doing just fine. She added a stake to help it grow up straight. When the weather turned cold, my tree's green leaves turned bright red. Then they twirled down to the ground. The next spring, my tree grew buds that turned into leaves. Over the summer, it grew branches with more leaves. Its trunk grew thicker. Close up of red maple branch with buds on in the spring. This is a leaf from my red maple tree. It has 3 lobes that have saw-toothed edges. There's the stem, the lobe, bark, ridges. The bark is dark gray and rough with little ridges. All summer I watered my tree and checked it for insects. It just kept growing. The arborist said that my tree could grow 60 feet high. That's taller than my house. Look at my tree now. It's much taller than I am. If I take good care of it, it will be around for a long, long time. A tree is a great friend to grow up with. You can plant a tree too. Which tree would you choose? We have an oak tree, a palm tree, a pine tree, a weeping willow tree, a Japanese maple, and a sweet cherry. Which tree would you plant? I hope you enjoyed the book.